The action is WICR.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. This is Bill and Bob. So, the NBA playoffs are here. We talked about it in our first segment, and this is actually gonna be a segue. That was a terrible segue, by the way. Actually.
Yeah, we should have just done baseball first,
and then yeah. But anyway, it is what it is. We're now going to talk about an issue that's going on with the NBA. One of many different professional sports, but in the NBA, this is
poor planning. Planned Parenthood would get it upset at us.
Wow.
That was a little punch at Planned Parenthood.
We are going to discuss the parity or lack thereof in the National Basketball Association. Now, if you're not familiar with this issue, it has to do with the lack of competitiveness that is in the NBA.
Indeed.
And the increased level of predictability in this league. You know, I haven't even watched a lot of basketball this year, and I pretty much already know, who's going to be in the play. Like, you don't even have to... I'm lying about that part. I watched some basketball, but you can, even before the season starts, you won't even have to watch it to know who's going to make it. You know San Antonio's going to make it. I guess now, Cleveland's going to make it because they have LeBron. You know Chicago's going to make it. There's certain teams, Golden State came up as a little bit of a surprise, but, there's certain teams you just know that are going to make it, And look at recent history. There have been, like 5 teams that have, there's been very few teams in the NBA that have actually, won a championship since 2000. Let's see, you have the Lakers, Spurs, Heat, who else? Lakers, Celtics, Mavericks.
Heat. Lakers, Celtics, Mavericks, Heat, Spurs.
Yeah, it's been it. And they've... It's so common nowadays in NBA to see teams win more than one NBA championship. And if you look at the NFL, they're obviously the more, not only financially, but popularity-wise, they're the more successful sports league in this country. And that is probably the most competitive, sport in this country.
Well, Rob, if you look at the standings right now, and I'm looking at the Eastern Conference and Western Conference standings, the Cleveland Cavaliers, who were 53-29, posting a 646 win percentage in the Eastern Conference through regular season play, would be in 6th place in the Western Conference.
Exactly. And also, if you look at the...
And, Rob, you also have 3 teams in the Eastern Conference that are below 300.
500.
Yeah, below 500 that have made it to the NBA playoffs this season. Whereas...
If you look at the 8th seed in the Western Conference, which would be the New Orleans Pelicans, they would be a 6th seed in the East. Yes,
yeah.
They'd be a 6th seed in the East. And
6th
then
in the
Milwaukee
East, yeah.
and Boston were rounded out. Brooklyn wouldn't even be in it. So, and this has been going on for years, and nothing's changed. The NBA is becoming really predictable. It's getting really boring because you know what teams are going to win.
Yeah, Milwaukee, Boston, Brooklyn will be out. Yeah.
So it's an issue that David Stern tried to solve, and I guess Adam Silver is continuing to try to solve.
Rob, even when we're watching the games, let's say it's a TNT doubleheader. The first game, it's probably going to be an Eastern Conference game if it's like conference play.
Yeah, that's the way it's supposed to be.
And then the second game, most likely a Western Conference game. The second game is always much better.
Oh, and
it always makes for a better Saturday or Friday night.
Another trend that I've noticed is, for most of the season, they've actually had 2 Western Conference games, or they would have the first game would be an Eastern Conference team going on the road to play a Western Conference team.
Yeah, because no one wants to watch an uncompetitive game.
Nobody wants to sit here and watch, Nets Celtics and think, oh, this could be a playoff matchup.
No, but Rob, see, it really is such a shame that in the country's biggest markets, New York, Boston, D.C., Philadelphia,
Los Angeles.
No, I'm talking about on the East Coast.
Oh, East Coast, okay.
Yeah. That we don't have great basketball teams, great rivalries between one seaboard city or one coastal city and another.
The only marginally good basketball team there is the Wizards. And that's it.
Yeah, and I mean, Toronto's good, but Toronto isn't in this country. Atlanta is very far south, and no one really considers it to be an eastern seaboard city, even though it's on the east.
Eastern seaboard cities would be D.C., Baltimore, Philadelphia, Boston, New York. So forth.
Yeah, and I mean Chicago, like I said, that isn't. Yeah, that's Midwest right there.
But these are teams that are in eastern part of the country.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
The eastern seaboard, the area that we're from, obviously New York, whatever.
Rob,
these teams are just, but they're pitiful.
Rob, actually, what surprised me is that Indiana and Miami, they both missed the playoffs this year.
Yeah, Miami. What a hard fall from grace.
Yeah,
They won the NBA.
and Indiana too.
They won the finals 2 years ago.
And Indiana, going up against the Heat back-to-back times in the conference finals.
That's right. And now neither one of them are in the playoffs.
No.
Indiana has. Indiana had to do with Paul George.
Well,
being injured.
Rob. At least this season, the Pacers could say that they were better than the Heat.
At least,
they were one game better. So
I mean, they were better in the first year that LeBron got there. They were better, but they just didn't win the conference finals. But
yeah,
it has to do with obviously Paul George being injured.
But
and for the Heat,
Rob,
LeBron leaving is huge.
Rob, again, as always, I think that LeBron going to Cleveland, and of course, you could say you have Love and Irving out there, but I think LeBron going to Cleveland and getting that 2 seed, that really shows, especially in professional basketball, how one player can make such a difference. Whereas in baseball, you have, let's say you're a great player, okay, to get one double, you need someone to drive you in. If you're a basketball player, you drive the running on your own.
I'll use guys from other sports. Look at baseball. Prince Fielder is hitting really well, and that Texas Rangers team is terrible.
Exactly.
Football is probably the most team-oriented sport in North America. One player cannot make a team great.
Like Andre Johnson. Andre Johnson, the guy is past his prime, and I feel bad for him. But, the guy, if he was on another team, you might look at him as a totally different player.
Now people are going to say, oh, what about, those Tom Brady Patriot teams? Those Tom Brady Patriot teams that won a Super Bowl in the early 2000s, those teams had really good defenses. People don't
Terry Bruschi?
Yeah, Terry Bruschi, Rodney Harrison, Vince Wilfork.
You had Adam Vinatieri on that team.
Yes, he was a great kicker. And
Willis McGahee.
If you look at this year's team, they had Rob Gronkowski and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Their offensive line struggled a little bit. They had Darrell Reeves.
And also that team with Aaron Hernandez.
Whoa, who's that?
Sorry to segue off the topic a bit, but Aaron Hernandez, his
way off the topic, but
his prison facility is only a mile and a half away from the Patriots Stadium and training facilities.
Oh,
so,
typical Belichick. But anyway, back to the Perity issue in the NBA. Mark Cuban actually came up with an idea that forget the conferences. They should just have the best 16 teams make it to the playoffs, no matter what conference they're in. I feel like it's good on paper, but then how would you divide the teams up? How would you determine who wins? I guess you could keep them geographic, but what would be the point of the conferences other than All-Star
Rob,
game?
I think that perhaps a better way to going about professional basketball and also the NHL, because the NHL does the conference thing too, is that we have a
based on
division.
Geography.
No, is that we have a division system where it's not based on the conference as much as it is on your division. So let's say you have Boston, Toronto,
New York,
Philly,
Brooklyn, and Philly.
New York, and Philly. 5 teams making up NBA, Eastern, North, or whatever you want to call it. Just like the AL East, the winner.
But the NBA does have
that.
The NBA does have that. They have the Atlantic, in the Eastern Conference, the Atlantic, Central, and Southeast. In the West, they have the Pacific and so forth, Northwest, Southwest.
Yeah, but Rob, there isn't as much focus on the division.
That's true.
As there is in other sports. Especially like we'll look in the NFL. Like always, and the MLB as well. The last few games are usually division games.
In the NFL, the last games are always division games.
Yeah, those games are the games that matter.
And also another thing I noticed in NBA, they play the teams in their own division as much as they play teams outside the division. It's in baseball and football, it's different. They play the teams in a division more, because that's the whole point of being in a division, is that's where you're most competitive in.
And Rob, I think that if the NBA wants to have better rivalries from a geographic perspective and everything, create divisions that are more united, where there's more focus on division play, because like you look at the Yankees versus Red Sox, they play like 28 times in a season or something like that.
I think it's 19.
Yeah, 19. Something like that. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
In the NFL, you play your own team twice every year.
Yeah, but I mean, that's proportional to the MLB because you're only playing 16, so
compared to 162.
Yeah. So what is that?
1/8.
Yeah. So the NFL, the proportion naturally comes out a little bit higher than the MLB, but
exactly. But a lot of it has to do with the salaries. Adam Stern, he actually used like a salary cap to try to fix problems, because they usually beat teams like the Lakers and the Knicks and Bulls, because they come from bigger markets, they have more money to spend, they just get all the marquee players. But now that that's happening, nothing's changing. The Western Conference is still far and away superior. And I don't. If you ask people, they're going to give you about 10 different answers as to why the NBA lacks competitiveness and why it's so predictable. But, there's no real easy answer to this. But I feel like there should be more focus on division play. I think that will help out a lot more. And, maybe less games, not that many. But maybe, instead of 82, maybe 70, that might help a little bit, I guess. But I think more focus...
Rob, for what reason?
I mean, not to do with this, but in general, 82 games in the whole season. You look at the European players that come over, they're usually a lot more skilled and more fundamentally sound because they play less games but have more practice time. These guys, they just go out and play games, and it takes a lot of strain on their body. You know how hard it is for...
but Rob, it isn't just about how skilled you are. It's about how much will, determination, and also endurance and strength.
That can only get you so far.
Rob, it's a test of the total player. It's not just a test of your basketball skills. It's a test of your strength, and also not just your physical strength, but the strength of mind to go get through those long months. January, February, March, December, whatever. And also, would you say the same thing about Major League Baseball? Cutting this season short?
I mean, 162 is kind of a lot. They play every day, but then again, Major League Baseball is nowhere near as physically demanding as basketball.
Rob, come on, Rob. Tell me that playing during those dog days of summer at Wrigley Field on those day games, that is not physically demanding.
Not as much as basketball. Definitely not football. That's not even a conversation, but definitely not as much as basketball. So that's your opinion, though. But the Perity issue.
Well, it seems like we have to go wrap up for
unfortunately,
the next show.
I know you're all sad, but
Of course I am. But we're doing big things, big media moves.
Yeah, so we have to go, guys. Thank you all for listening. It's been a pleasure. This is Bob Baez.
And I'm Bill Maloney.
And we are
Go Cubs, go Yankees, go Mets, and go Gales.
We are signing off.